Well, we made some progress on this little Briggs and Stratton engine. You get these engines, of course they're old and who knows what their previous history was, but somebody's had this engine apart recently. I've had it laying around here for about 8 years and haven't done anything with it, and decided to drag it out, see what I could make of it. This head gasket appears to be a new gasket, nothing wrong, we can reuse that. There's no carbon or anything in the cylinder head here, so they've cleaned that out, and you can see where this has been cleaned. The valves weren't stuck. You can see when I turned it over here, the valves, there's the exhaust valve is opening, and the intake valve is opening, and they both have clearance. You've got to have valve clearance on the valve stem between the tappets or lifters and the valve stem. A lot of times these engines, they'll run and the valve seats will get beat down into the head, and then they don't have any clearance anymore. When the engine gets hot and everything expands, they'll usually just quit on you because there's no compression because the valve isn't seating. I don't believe that's the case here, but there was a bunch of rust and fine dirt and things in here, and it's possible when they had this apart before they didn't do anything with the valves as far as the seats or anything on the valve face. So I'm going to take those out, clean them up, relap them with some valve grinding compound, and see if we can get some compression. The cylinder bore looks very good. There's no ridge at all in there. Normally an engine that's had a lot of hours on it, the rings will wear a ridge at the top of the cylinder where when the piston comes up the end of the travel, it'll wear the cylinder below that area. But there's no ridge at all on this engine. So I don't think it's had a lot of hours on it. This was, I said earlier, on a washing machine engine, so when electricity came through rural America or even in the cities, these were immediately obsolete because we've had electric motor on your washing machine. That's why a lot of these are floating around. They took the engine off the washing machine, refitted it with an electric motor so that Granny didn't have to fool around starting this thing up to wash clothes. So a lot of these were just scrapped out when electricity came through. Here in northern Indiana, the REMC, Rural Electric Corporation, came through about 1937, 1938. Ran power lines to the rural areas. So that's about when these became obsolete. A lot of times fellows will work on these engines and spin them over and fool around with them with a spark plug wire unhooked. Well, that's kind of hard on the coil because that spark is going someplace. It's still producing a spark even though it's not connected to anything. So I like to ground out the spark plug wire, because if that's ungrounded, that spark's going someplace, and where it's going is inside the coil itself, and it eventually short out the coil. A lot of these engines, if you can't get a spark after cleaning the points and everything, take an ohm meter and check your coil. A lot of times it'll be shorted out, no continuity at all. Then you have to look for another coil. But I ground them out so it doesn't damage the coil while I'm working on them. The first video, I said there was a spring missing here on the Kickstarter. Well, it's not. The spring was right in here after I got to looking at it. And this is adjustable. That's kind of a nice feature. You can loosen this nut up and this kick lever will move up or down wherever it's more convenient for the machine. But there's a spring in here, and all it needed was some lubrication. So now it'll return. Of course the engine will start and this will back up and return. So now it'll return, work like it's supposed to. these engines were pretty crude. The crankcase has got a little breather right here where the oil can return, and there's this little tin cover, and you can see it's kind of got a indentation there, and that fits in here like that. Keep the oil from splashing up out of there. Actually, the crankcase breather is over here. That's the breather, and that just kind of deflects the oil from spraying all over in there when the engine's running. The carburetor or mixer on these is pretty simple. Here's your fuel inlet from the tank. This is your jet adjustment. There's only one adjustment on it for the fuel air mixture. This is your choke. You can see right through there now, hole through there while you choke the engine and shut that hole off. Pretty simple. No air filter. This is your throttle lever over there. There's a little butterfly inside here to control the speed. There would be a cable on here that would override the governor or give it a little more tension to adjust your speed. For this engine, I won't have any throttle control on it at all. The cable would fit down here and run up to the bottom of the throttle lever here. But I'm just going to let it idle, or a little bit above idle, if I can get it to run. Pretty simple carburetor, but if you see anything like this laying around in Grandpa's toolbox or junk drawer, hang on to it, because what normally happens with these, they get bumped and they'll break right here. I've seen a lot of these that were broken off, and they're pretty hard to fix. Because usually when they break off, they just get thrown away. So if you see any little gadgets laying around like that, hang on to them, because they're hard to find and quite valuable. So we'll proceed taking the valves out, lapping the valves back in, and see if we can get some compression.